DeMars. We've got 5-color Bring the Light against a Tarka Red. And perhaps we'll see Gerry playing against Michael Majors and Great Megamorph, but not right now, as we are underway here in the quarterfinals. DeMars going to start off with a Lightning Berserker, a card that actually played a pretty big role in the earlier match.
Yeah, especially with a lot of Thompson's sweepers being Sorcery Speed Lightning Berserker, which is a card that Brian told me has, on the balance, underperformed over the course of the tournament. Very solid against Thompson's deck.
A Jace here for Thompson. And now DeMars, looks like he may have a Wild Slash to take care of Jace. Berserker's going to come in, a little pump action. Thompson's going to fall down to 18. Quarterfinals are underway here from Indianapolis.
Another issue in the matchup for Thompson game one. A lot of his early developmental plays, Jace and Nissa, vulnerable to Wild Slash. For this 5-color Bring to Light deck, for the most part, you can spend some turns early on, kind of taking them off to make sure you're fetching for the right lands and setting up your mana to be efficient and coming into play untapped down the line. A Tarka Red is a deck that's going to punish you for those kind of stumbles.
Bloodstained Mire, the draw here for DeMars. He'll sacrifice the Windswept Youth, however. I imagine a Cinderglade is on the way to give him access to both red and green mana. We have seen DeMars have no mana issues with this deck. Very impressive.
Yep, and you know, he said it was, the mana is good enough where it is close to being able to remove the forest from the deck.
Yeah.
He thinks at that point the Windswept Heaths are too bad, and on the balance it's worth keeping the forest in, but the mana is reliable enough that that's at least a conversation, which is very impressive for this deck.
DeMars does have Chandra in hand. Going to come across with a Berserker here. Looks like it's just going to be for one. So maybe it's time to go to the Planeswalker. And it appears that it is. Thompson will sacrifice a Bloodstained Mire very quickly. We'll see if he wants to go for a basic or battle land. One thing we've seen with Gerry as well over the rounds that we've watched him, no real issues with mana for him either.
Mm-hmm. And I wonder, you know, if we're moving to a world where Abzan Charm is the most common removal spell that people are playing. We don't see 4 copies of Ruinous Path. It's not nearly as powerful as Hero's Downfall is. The first copy can be really good in long games. I wonder if Chandra is a card poised for an uptick because it just doesn't get killed by Abzan Charm. And it's very powerful if it resolves for 1 turn.
Its sizing could be very important.
And the issue was in the previous format, it just, you know, was a little slow to bear and just got killed by Hero's Downfall often. But if people are on Abzan Charm as their removal spell of choice, could be very good for Chandra.
Polluted Delta, Wooded Foothills in hand here for Thompson. Also has Abzan Charm. Not sure he has a way to kill Chandra right now, however. So just going to play Wooded Foothills and simply pass the turn back. Over to DeMars, we're going to go. Brian will take a draw. Picked up a copy of Dragon Fodder. He'll sacrifice the Bloodstained Mire. Another copy of Cinderglade.
And with 4 copies of Bring to Light in Gerry's deck, alongside the sweepers that he has, I think this turn is a priority for DeMars to flip Chandra into a Planeswalker. Mm-hmm. That way, if he gets tagged with a sweeper, at least he's got something to rebuild with.
We can see something like Bring the Light have to find Utter, and then
yeah,
changes the entire dynamic of the game, really.
If DeMars can end this turn, let's say with 2 creatures in play and a flipped Chandra, that's about as good as it's going to get.
Mm-hmm. Here comes Chandra, here comes Lightning Berserker. We'll see if there are any pumps with the Berserker. So the answer is no. DeMars is being very careful to play around Abzan Charm.
Yep. I mean, 1 pump into the Berserker is a freebie, but past that, you're risking Abzan Charm.
Mm-hmm.
Though it's not clear how much he should be looking to play around Abzan Charm in this spot, because he has to be concerned with getting hit with a sweeper next turn. If he trades one of his Lightning Berserkers with a removal spell, he can play one more thing, he can still flip Chandra, and he's not that bad against a sweeper.
There's Dragon Fodder. Trigger Chandra. Goblins on the way.
Modern Challenge players, you are pairing for round number
And now, inactivation. That's 3 damage for Chandra. It's flipping into the Roaring Flame. Gonna dome Gerry for 2 as it moves up to 5. And now Thompson is in a difficult spot because there's a Planeswalker out there that's continuously doing damage, and then there are creatures, and he can't take care of both with just one spell.
Exactly, and this is the board state DeMars was trying to set up where he wouldn't lose everything to either Crux of Fate or Languish. Though if this was the line of play that DeMars wanted to take, I'm interested to see why he didn't want to pump the Berserker once.
Maybe missed out on a point of damage?
Maybe. I think he could be thinking, well, if Thompson does have a removal spell here, I may want to cast something like Abbot of Carol Keep and Dragon Fodder. So I think DeMars is happy enough with this outcome where he didn't want to commit mana inside of combat if in the event that something died, he would want to put more on the board. Looks a little awkward, but I understand the logic.
Oh, there is a Cinderglade. So Thompson's got that Battleland mana base going. That's not going to be a problem at all for him. He's just got to figure out how to catch up here because he is certainly behind. And as we saw when they played earlier today, it's a bad game 1 for Thompson. Even if he's on the play, it's bad game 1.
Thompson was on the play here, and it's not even like DeMars' draw was particularly explosive. And Gerry is up against the ropes right now.
And paying 2 life for 2 cards, down to 7. Another thing to keep in mind, too, with Thompson's deck, a lot of fetch lands in there, so all those little points add up for his lands. Yeah, he gets good mana, but at a cost.
And when you're taking points off your lands, taking points on your spells, and you're likely to die with 5 or 6 cards in your hand, that's where, you know, that's the red form of card advantage.
Polluted Delta, down to 6. DeMars right now with Abbot of Carol Keep and Temur Battle Rage in hand. Smoldering Marsh, the land here for Thompson. There's Crux of Fate.
So Gerry did have the option this turn to bathe for a Rhino instead, but that leaves him very vulnerable to any pump spell. He's trying to cut off DeMars from having a creature and then probably get Siege Rhino next turn. He also needs to prevent Chandra from going ultimate. There's a lot going on here.
There's Abbott. Oh, well, another Abbott. Let's do it again. Mountain, sure. Now Chandra goes up. Thompson falls to 4. We'll see what's next. DeMars got to love his positioning right now.
Yep, coming from a variety of angles. He's not done in by a single card. He's done a very good job of measuring his threats.
A place that Thompson doesn't want to go down to is 3, of course, because of a card like Atarka's Command, but he may have no choice. Here's Bring to Light.
I don't see him being Atarka's Command very easily, no matter what he does.
Yeah, me either. It's interesting. It's a card that Gerry can search up here.
Yeah, looking at the Glimtrap Winnower.
Yeah, he's looking at the Guiltleaf Winnower. Also looking at Languish now. This little toolbox that Bring to Light lets you play is pretty interesting. He's going to cast Languish, clear up the board.
And again, he's trying to do as much as possible with the sweepers to prevent DeMars from doing anything with a pump spell.
Yep. But a haste creature is exactly what the doctor ordered here for DeMars. So there's Monastery Swiftspear. He'll attack Temur Battle Rage. That'll trigger Prowess. And that'll be enough damage to cause this game to end. So Brian DeMars is going to win game number 1 here over Gerry Thompson. Atarka Red up a game over 5-color Bring to Light. And even though DeMars was on the draw, since he's the number 8 overall seed, Still a great matchup, game one.
Yeah, and you saw that on display there with Thompson on the play. DeMars not really doing anything on the second turn of the game, but Thompson ended up dying with 6 cards in his hand, 5 cards in his hand. It's going to happen pretty often game one.
To the sideboards, we're going to go here for both players. We'll take a look at what they both have access to, and we'll start with Thompson and his Anafenza the foremost. 2 Disdainful Strokes, 2 Duress, 2 Encase and Ice, 2 Ob Nixilis Reignited, 3 Radiant Flames, a Radiant Purge, a Slumgar the Drifting Death, and a Slumgar's Command.
We know the deal here. It's going to be the 2 copies of Duress, the 2 copies of Encase and Ice, and the 3 copies of Radiant Flames being the big stuff that Gerry brings to the table here. Along with that, he can bring in something like an Anafenza just to have an earlier blocker, but Duress to attack the hand, Encase and Ice to slow the game down, and Radiant Flames to punish DeMars if he overextends is the recipe here.
Other side of things here for DeMars, he's got 3 Arc Lightnings, 2 Fiery Impulse, 2 Goblin Heel Cutters, 4 Hangerback Walkers, 2 Rose, 2 Thunderbreak Region.
So I don't exactly know what DeMars' approach is going to be to the matchup. We saw him playing earlier in the Swiss, and he brought in the Thunderbreak Regents, and they looked pretty poor. I don't believe ever saw Hangerback Walker, which I expected to come in, and he still had a lot of pump spells in his deck, even though I expected him to cut most of them. So I don't exactly know what strategy he's bringing to the table here. To me, Hangerback Walker, Thunderbreak Regent, Roast, and Goblin Heel Cutter are all potentially on the table here for DeMars, depending on how he wants to approach the matchup. If he wants to leave in the pump spells, he's going to keep it pretty light. But if he wants to become more of just a curve of creatures and be less vulnerable to 2-for-1s from the more removal that Thompson is bringing in, he's going to be sideboarding pretty heavy. If he thinks his pump spells are good, he'll keep it pretty close to the 60 he had game one.
Well, those are the options there for both players, and game number 2 going to be underway here in just a moment. But we got to talk about our Season 3 Invitational Champion. He's headed to the Players' Championship. That's Alex Bistecki, and here is his Germ Token, which you can use mostly for Batterskull, but I know there are some Flayer Husk and Bone Horde fans out there, and a bevy of ways to go about getting this.
Yeah. For starters, you can sign up for any of our 2-day $20,000 Open Series event, like the one we're covering the top 8 of right now. Anyone who registers for a 5K Premier IQ, both the ones that are running right now here in Indianapolis or one that you can bring to your local store, will come with this token. And any order from StarCityGames.com, $5 or more.
Congratulations to our Season 3 Invitational Champion, Alex Bistecki. A very impressive performance from him in New Jersey a couple of months ago, taking down Stephen Mann in the finals of that Invitational. We'll see him at the Players' Championship, and he is, well, $10,000 richer as well.
Mm-hmm.
Few updates for you at home. Again, if you are not on Twitter, not following at SCG Live, first of all, you should be, but second of all, Nick Miller is updating as we go live down there in the feature match area, letting us know that Adam Werner has 1 game 1 here over Clay Spickelmeyer, and that's a Jeskai Black mirror. And then for Michael Majors, he's up a game right now with his green-white Megamorph deck over Bradley Carpenter, who's playing Obzon Control, and things only get better for Majors after Sideboard.
Exactly, we talked about that. Evolutionary leaps especially. And I'm going to disagree with you. I don't mind if someone doesn't have a Twitter account. You want to follow us?
I said you should be following us. I didn't say you can. If you have Twitter, you should be following.
You want to follow us?
If you don't, that's fine.
You want to follow us at SCG Live? That's cool. And if not, that's cool too.
He's lying.
Appreciate you tuning in the broadcast. Not engaging in the self-aggrandizing sandstorm that is social media.
Is this going to be more? Is this going to be part of your political campaign?
No.
The sandstorm of social media.
Listen, I'm part of it. You know, I'm not trying to do any holier than thou thing. I'm part of it too. But I respect anyone who chooses not to engage.
That means they wouldn't know about wonderful personalities like Network, Patrick.
It's true. You would miss some
You're
things.
You're missing out on some things. Not as much as you would think, but you're missing out on some things.
Right. Like most things, the value proposition is not great, but in an absolute sense, you do miss out some things by not engaging.
We have 6 different archetypes in top 8.
Gerry's leaving. DeMars is pile shuffling. This could be a while.
Yep.
Okay, never mind.
Two of your favorite things. We got a 5-color Bring the Light deck, a Tarka Red, 2 copies of Jeskai Black, green-white Megamorph, Obzon Control, and then 2 Esper Dragons. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 6 different archetypes. Pretty diverse.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there's a lot of Obzon aggro on day 2.
The decks, right now, things feel a little soupy. I mean, the Jeskai versus Obzon multicolor builds are definitely different, but it's a lot of the same threats and removal spells. But that's kind of be expected week 1. You don't have that firm of a footing on what the metagame is going to look like or what people are going to play. So just find all of your good cards and make the mana work. It's not a bad strategy.
A little bit more surprised that Esper Dragons didn't have a little bit more representation here this weekend. A card like Slimgar, Score, and Dragon Ojitai, both pretty powerful cards.
Well, I think the problem with Esper Dragons is that the mana is not as gentle for those decks as it used to be, because the battle lands plus fetch lands do a lot to facilitate. I want to play Crackling Doom plus Obzon Charm in the same deck. Is it as good for facilitating, I want to play double blue, double white, and double black in the same deck? I would say no.
When we do have an update on that Esper Dragons mirror, we'll certainly let you guys know, though I think it might be a bit.
Could be.
That one's a little slow. Though they do close the game fast.
Yeah, it is not like a Revelation mirror, which could go on indefinitely. The pile shuffling of mirror matches.
Yeah. I'm waiting for when Brian goes back to watch this. And he's coming after you.
There's nothing to be said.
I'm very pro pile shuffle.
This is not an efficient way to randomize your deck. It is
very
productive
pro.
to make sure there are 60 cards there. Don't mind that.
Don't you ever just do things that just kind of feel right, even though they don't make sense?
When I'm the only one impacted all the time. Yeah. That's my whole life. But when it starts affecting other people, then you have to change the calculus a little bit.
See, what you don't know is I talked to Brian while you weren't here, and I told him to keep pile shuffling.
Just keep it going.
To put you over the edge.
Just keep going.
Yes. Known Brian for a long time. Played a lot of Magic against Brian. We're both from the Midwest. I said, Patrick is going to lose his mind if you keep doing this, so just get after him.
And this is something that used to not bother me. In fact, I probably piled like 3 or 4 times when I was a PTQ grinder. Sometimes it just takes someone pointing out to you, have you considered how your behavior is affecting others, to be like, oh, I don't need a pile. This is fine. Look at Gerry. Model of efficiency right now.
Just side shuffling away.
Right.
With his Triforce sleeves. Are these 6 better? Good enough because he gets the scry, I guess. Vancouver Mulligan rule in effect. He's in the tank over this one. Looks like he's going to keep it. He'll start with the Shambling Vent. Game number 2 here, the quarterfinals underway. Bloodstained Mire, going to put DeMars down to 19. Basic Mountain on the way. And we'll see what his first turn yields.
The reality with the pile shuffling is that we all just have idiosyncratic behavior that makes us feel comfortable. We all do weird stuff.
For example, when I mulligan, so when I start, I pile shuffle in 7 piles. And then when I mulligan, I pile shuffle in 6 piles.
First time it didn't work.
No, it's just so that I know how many cards to draw.
Oh, okay.
It makes sense. Sometimes I pile shuffle in piles of 4 when things aren't going very well.
Okay.
It's a reminder so I don't draw 7 cards on accident. You wouldn't like playing against me.
We have played against each other twice, in fact.
I believe.
We've split them. We split our matches.
Right, this again. Here comes Zergo. A little Titan strength here, it appears.
Hi-ya.
In for 5 here for Brian. He gets a scry as well. Wild Slash on top. I got a feeling that's going to the bottom.
I think he already has one,
He
too.
does. Not where I would want to double up if I'm Brian. And he agrees. Does he have a follow-up play?
Yes.
Yes, he does. Pretty big punch in the mouth here by DeMars. Fair enough. We're going to head back Thompson's way now. He's already at 12. It's his 3rd turn of the game.
But DeMars is very low on total cards in hand.
Yep. This is the kind of game that Siege Round turns around pretty quick.
People get pretty low in life when you're lava spiking them, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're beat.
Yep. There's Radiant Flames. Just a 1-for-1 trade with Radiant Flames, but you got to get that thing off the battlefield.
Yep. I mean, he's in become immense territory next turn.
Yeah.
And this is the pressure that DeMars' deck puts on you is you kind of have to answer everything because any creature left unchecked going into his turn can deal a whole lot of damage. I mean, we had this match earlier where become immense plus Temur Battle Rage on a Swift Spear was worth 18 points.
An incredible amount of damage.
And that can happen even if the board's clear.
Here's Abbott. Zergo. Yeah, that card's exiled. Doesn't stay on top. Feels a little awkward if it's up there, as though Brian might be shuffling it away. Now, that is an interesting search there. Not getting Cinderglade.
Yeah, I do not know what the incentive is to do this.
And he does not have another land in his hand. So I'm a little surprised by that search there by Brian. Because you have to imagine a Tarkus Command still in the deck.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if Become Immense is, but I'd be shocked if Brian boarded out a Tarkus Command. Thompson going to go down to 10. Here's a Siege Rhino up to 13. I think we'll have Basic Island here from Thompson. Getting that 5-color mana base online. DeMars will fall down to 14. Now we're going over to DeMars. Bloodstained Mire means that he can still find green mana. He's got another copy of Abbott in hand. We'll see if he wants to start there or not. But Siege Rhino is a real pain in the neck for DeMars to get through.
This is the first real big test of the match here for DeMars. What's his workaround to Siege Rhino?
Looks like Michael Majors is up early and moving around there behind DeMars, so it looks like he got the job done in his match. Chandra is the reveal. Bloodstained Mire is the land. Here's Jace from Thompson. And just gotta pass the turn back, no land to play. DeMars will sacrifice the Bloodstained Mire while he goes and digs out a land, shuffles, and presents the deck. Quick updates for you. Clay Spicklemire to tie things up against Adam Varner. They're in a mirror match with their Jeskai Black decks. Jeskai splashing Crackling Doom and some other assortment of cards. As for Dragons, mirror between Jeff Kruchkow and Patrick Coe. Right now, Kruchkow is currently up a game. He's the number 3 overall seed. Coe the number 6 overall seed. And then Michael Majors did win his match over Bradley Carpenter 2-0. Majors the number 2 overall seed. He is through to the semifinals. Back to DeMars we go. Monastery Swift Spear, I believe, was a draw. It might be a heel cutter.
I think he has a heel cutter, and he has a Wild Slash to pair with it, which is a lot of damage this turn if Thompson is without a removal spell.
There is that heel cutter. I believe Thompson does have Murderous Cut in hand right now, though, and it's a good thing he does because heel cutter is a real pain to play against if he didn't. So that problem is solved. Take a look at DeMars' board. No real good attacks now.
Yeah, this is another, an interesting tap here from DeMars as he is now telling Gerry, don't have to worry about Become Immense.
Mm-hmm. Well, Rhino is going to die, as will the Abbott, and then 5 damage is going to come through. So there's an active Jace out here now. Only 2 cards in the graveyard. But DeMars has decided to give Thompson an active Jace, and what a big draw there by Gerry. Picked up another copy of Siege Rhino.
Well, DeMars is trying to shorten the game, and Jace may not even flip in time. So the Rhino is definitely the priority, but a second one here for Thompson is very bad news for Brian.
Back over to DeMars we're going to go. Still plenty of big draws available. Mountain is certainly not one of them. There's Wild Slash to go after Jace.
Yeah, I think DeMars was contemplating going after the Siege Rhino there. The problem is that if Thompson blocks Rhino in front of Zergo, then it's a dead end.
Yeah, it's no good.
Yeah.
See what card Thompson wants to discard. He's got Crux of Fate in hand, Slumgar as well. He's going to discard Crux of Fate. There goes Jace. What I'm curious to see is if Thompson ever considers getting into the red zone here. Radiant Flames just may have answered my question.
Now we will.
Yep. That may have just answered my question. And Gerry even has a unique way to go about casting Radiant Flames where it doesn't have to be for 3. So if he's worried about a card like Wild Slash, he can cast it for 2. But if he's worried about DeMars having a Tarkus command to save his creatures, then he might have to do it for 3. So I actually think that's what we're going to see him think about here.
And now he's got to go through his head. Was there a window here in the last couple turns for DeMars to productively attack his command?
Yeah.
Looks like he's going to err on the side of caution, just make sure to take the creatures out. And at this point, you know, DeMars has already played quite a few Wild Slashes.
And do you have a third one? And, you know, the other thing, too, here is DeMars going to dash a Zergo, get in for 2 points of damage, and pass the turn back. If he has the third Wild Slash to kill the Rhino, sure, that's it.
Yep.
Like, that's your entire hand. I don't have a Rhino, but I do have a Slumgar as backup. Thompson moves forward the Shambling Vent to say, this time I'm going to finish you off this turn, and that's going to get the job done. So Gerry Thompson going to win game number 2 here over Brian DeMars. 5-color Bring the Light, ties it up against Tarka Red, and we're getting ready here for game number 3.
And the Shambling Vent's another reason that Gerry can go ahead and make that play. Even if we're on empty, Gerry has a 2-power life linker to rebuild with against DeMars having nothing, and Thompson is way more powerful draw step to draw step than DeMars. So at that point, the priority for Thompson, just clear out the board.
Back to the sideboard, so we'll take a look at these here from both players. And curious if you think anything changes for DeMars now that he's on the play here for game 3.
Well, it makes the game 1 setup of this deck more attractive. It's more likely that he can just, you know, knock the doors down and kill Gerry before he gets much of anything set up. So if DeMars had gotten away from his pump spell configuration, there's an argument to bring it in for game number 3. The question I have at this point is, what is DeMars even sideboarded? I mean, he has not shown Hangerback Walker in all the games that we watched so far. I don't know if Thunderbreak Regent's in his deck at this point, and it looks like he's kept in a lot of his pump spells. So even though he could be sideboarding, I think, reasonably up to 10 cards, I think the only thing I'm positive about being in his deck is the Heel Cutters. Everything else may or may not be in.
Heel Cutter's great.
Heel Cutter's definitely good.
Yeah.
It's something where it's a reasonable answer to Siege Rhino, like Roast, but not dead in hand when Thompson is trying to beat him with a flurry of removal spells like Roast is.
We'll see if Hangerback Walker or anything else comes in. You see both players kind of going back to the drawing board. I don't think much changes for Gerry. You know, he will take a look at the deck list and all that stuff, but I'm not convinced much changes. He's got such great options, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm looking to see if there's any card that seems much better on the play than on the draw, and there's a few cards you could point to. I guess the Guilt Trap Winnower is something that seems solid to me on the play and probably too slow on the draw.
Okay.
Maybe there's 1 or 2 cards like that. But I think Gerry has very clearly defined good cards and bad cards in his main deck to take out, and it's not that play draw biased.
Well, as far as what these players are playing for here in the elimination rounds, first place $5,000, 25 Open Series points, an invite to our Season 4 Invitational in Las Vegas. Second place $2,000, 20 Open Series points, invite to our Season 4 Invitational. At the very least, you see 5th through 8th. They're walking out here with $500, 10 Open Series points, and an invite to our Season 4 Invitational for Brian DeMars. His first Open Series top 8, actually a little bit surprising there.
He doesn't play in a ton of the events, but yes, I would have still expected one by now.
As for Thompson, anything but that. 18 top 8s now, 5 Open Series wins, 2 Invitational wins. The win moves him back over Todd Anderson with 8 total wins on the Open Series. They're both currently tied with 7. Thompson, again, 5 Open wins with 2 Invitational wins. For Todd Anderson, 6 Open wins and an Invitational win.
And all the more impressive here for Thompson by just posting his 75.
Yep. Here's what I'm doing on Wednesday. Feel free to beat me if you can. Only one person has. DeMars trying to be the second and knock him out of the tournament. As far as other things that Gerry Thompson has done, his hair, it's a little different now. But 6 invitational top 8s, including 2 wins. Hey, it used to be colored. Now it's just long in that picture. 17 Open Series top 8s. We'll have to update the graphic to 18 now. Pro Tour top 8 at Pro Tour Gate Crash. 9 GP top 8s, including 2 wins at GP Nashville and GP Denver. Currently practicing partner acrobatics, with his girlfriend, Caitlin. At one time had $20,000 underneath his bed in a shoebox. And Jason Ford, a friend, holds the rights to name his firstborn child.
What do you think the odds are that the second fact and the third fact are related?
Oh, there's nothing that can really be said about those facts. Oh, Gerry. Both players going to keep their openers. A basic mountain to start here for DeMars off of the wooded foothills. There's a Swift Spear. Great start here for Brian.
And then turn 2 Dragon Fodder. This is the kind of opening that DeMars wants. Needs to get a base of pressure into play that isn't going to get picked apart by a single removal spell, and then back it up with pump spells and burn.
Yeah, and this forces Thompson to have a card like Radiant Flames, too. Wooded Foothills number 2 going to put DeMars down to 18. Another mountain on the way. You saw Thompson start off with Lumbering Falls. Here comes that Dragon Fodder, it appears. Yep. 2 goblins on the way. Trigger Prowess come across here for 2.
Great opening here for DeMars.
Yeah.
I think this is the best opening we've seen in him. Well, the goblins don't have haste.
Yeah, those would be a little too good then.
That would be a great opening.
Yeah.
Still very good, and I think the best opening we've seen from DeMars in either of the 2 matches thus far.
Again, this really forces the hand for Thompson to have Radiant Flames on turn 3. Now, a card like Duress on this turn, something like that, could be very potent. Encased in Ice could be very good as well. He's got some earlier interaction after sideboard, but it's very possible for him to die before he even gets to cast Siege Rhino.
Here's another thing to keep in mind. Deck lists are public here in the top 8. Thompson does not have a mountain in his list. So if Thompson fails to play a mountain on the, if he fails to fetch for red mana this turn, DeMars knows he can't play Radiant Flames on the 3rd turn of the game. There's no mountain for him to go get.
Sure.
So if he doesn't have 2 basics, his red mana always comes into play tapped.
Windswept Teeth is land number 3 here for Brian, down to 17. We'll see if it'll be a Cinder Glade or a mountain.
So with this copy of Polluted Delta in play, Thompson is threatening to fetch for, let's say, Smoldering Marsh and be able to Radiant Flames next turn. But if this was just a non-red battle land that came into play tapped, or even a basic land, DeMars could go nuts this turn.
Now he's got to be a little bit more cautious, perhaps.
Yes.
Here come the attackers, and Thompson's going to sacrifice this Polluted Delta. We'll see what land he wants to get. It'll be a swamp. Encase in Ice on the way to shut down the Swift Spear. Pretty important for Thompson to have that, because I think we were going to have an Atarkus command turn.
But what this means is Radiant Flames is off the table for turn 3.
Here is Atarkus command. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 total. Going to put Thompson down to 9. Now, one thing to note, it appears, DeMars did have the opportunity to play Become Immense last turn. Or this turn, excuse me, elected not to. He's just going to pass the turn back, not playing Zergo either. So I agree with you, no basic mountain in the deck, but did DeMars look that deep into the deck list? Maybe yes, maybe no.
Yeah, I mean,
he might assume that Gerry can just go Mountain, Radiant Flames, kill your stuff, which is part of the reason he didn't play Zergo this past turn.
But he still has the opportunity. He may be trying to conceal some strength here, because DeMars can still dash Zergo and Become Immense. So it doesn't look like that much is going on in play. But he can dash Zergo. That probably warrants a response from Thompson if he's got a removal spell. And then DeMars can finish off the game with Become Immense.
And he just drew a copy of Titan Strength too, so now things get really interesting. See how Brian wants to play this one.
He's got a lot of really good paths he can take this game.
He does.
The issue here is that if he dashes Zergo and Zergo dies, he can't kill Thompson. He's a point short.
Well, being a point short might not be so bad.
The issue then is if Thompson goes untap, play a sweeper, DeMars has no burn and no haste threats.
Here's Titan Strength. That's going to get Gerry in a move almost assuredly. There's Salteye Charm. And this is bad for Brian, but also good for Brian because now, okay, Gerry's tapped out. I can cast Become Immense, and I will. So I get to deal you 7. Put you down to 2. Pass a turn back.
DeMars is still very vulnerable to Siege Rhino, however.
Yes, he is. Smoldering Marsh, I believe, was the draw there for Thompson. Does Thompson have fetch land go down to 1 to play Siege Rhino? Looks like he does. Polluted Delta. Go get a Prairie Stream, I believe. Time for DeMars to draw. He can still win the game this turn. What did he find? Bloodstained Mire, not going to help very much. It's 14-4. Here's Chandra.
He can empty out his hand here, but then he is very vulnerable to a sweeper.
I like holding Zergo here a lot.
Yep. Zergo conceals some strength, and it means that if Gerry gets sloppy, he can dash Zergo, pair it with a pump spell or burn spell, and still win the game. And Chandra is probably enough to get a sweeper out of Thompson if he has it. Because Chandra can kill him very easily from here, too.
Oh, yeah, sweeper removal spell. Got to get that off the board now. Other thing to keep in mind, too, we've said this multiple times, Thompson's mana base so painful. I think we're going to have, it's actually a pretty good turn here for Gerry. Look, it might be Reeve Soul plus Jace. Yep, Reeve Soul take care of Chandra. Jace. That can help smooth out the draw. Gonna head. Ooh.
Ooh. I mean, I appreciate trying to get the game over with, but
Ooh.
DeMars is getting paid for holding Zergo back.
That is a bold attack.
Well, if Thompson has Murderous Cut, I think this is fine.
It's less bold then.
We'll see what the last card is.
Yeah.
But Thompson also can't sit here forever. He's at 4. He can die to a lot of different stuff.
Yeah. Over to DeMars we'll go. What did Brian draw? Didn't get a great look. I think it may have been Dragon Fodder.
Dragon Fodder's not shabby here. This still sets him up here to dash Zergo, get in a shot, play Dragon Fodder, and Thompson again. He needs to have a lot of different stuff here.
Yep. Dragon Fodder is going to be the follow-up. Man, that attack was bold. I would have played so cautiously there.
The problem, I don't mind playing cautiously when you have a lock on the game.
Yeah.
I don't think Gerry was in that position at all.
Thompson down to 2. Decisions now. Might want to activate Jace on the upkeep, might want to sacrifice the fetch land on the upkeep. He's at 2, not a lot of life to work with, obviously. He'll start by drawing. Encase an Ice.
So Encase an Ice on the surface is fine because there's 4 eligible attackers, the 3 we know about plus Zergo. Siege Rhino checks 1, Jace can block. Encase an Ice stops something, and Gerry's at 2. So on board, he's still playing.
Canopy Vista, the draw. Jace is going to flip. Telepath Unbound is here. Starts on 5. Where's it going to go?
Flashing back a removal spell and giving something -2/-0 is functionally the same.
Yep. What Thompson needs here, or what he would like, I would say, another Siege Rhino.
Yeah, that's the dream.
That would help immensely. Bring the light or a Siege Rhino. I don't think he's got those tools in his hand right now, though.
So these are this is the risk reward analysis here that Gerry is going through. He has nothing to do with his mana this turn. So spending his mana this turn and giving himself an opportunity to draw something next turn to cast is a much more efficient use of his mana. The flip side of this is that if DeMars draws let's say Chandra, Gerry cannot kill it because he can't flashback a removal spell next turn. He has to draw something. So from a mana efficiency standpoint, this is much better for Thompson. He is risking an activated creature coming off the top and Gerry not being able to answer it.
The draw was a McKindy Slide Runner. Here's Dash. No Dash just yet. In case of ice, I think going on a Goblin token.
Has to go on the Goblin because if he puts it on Zergo, it just goes back to DeMars' hand.
Yep. Now, I'm curious to see if Brian wants to attack here at all. Put him down to 1. I don't know if 1 is any different than putting him to 0. I guess 1, I would actually have some interest in putting him down to 1 to shut off fetch lands.
Yes. Although the question is, what does he even do with the fetch land at this point?
Sure.
There's not really anything to be cast.
6-mana spell that he could play is Salumgar, which we've seen to be pretty good.
Well, he already hit. Okay. Sure.
It's very close, I think.
It's very close.
If you're going to throw away your Zergo to get to that, it's very close. Now where do we go?
I mean, you just suppressed one of the creatures with Jace.
Yeah. Now Thompson's hand right now is all lands.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it any easier for DeMars, and Thompson is going to posture quite a bit here, as he should.
I mean, if DeMars can rationalize me and move next turn, he has to. It's not, again, not getting better. A lot of draws from Thompson here. They don't necessarily end the game, but it make it very hard for DeMars to win.
Going to slow down the Goblin. There's a land. And I even like slowing down the Goblin a little bit.
This is the best thing that he can do to convince DeMars that his hand is nothing. Because by shutting down the Goblin and leaving the Slide Runner, he's saying, come get it. Make an attack.
Yep, there's Thunderbreak Regent. Because if he would have said Zergo, dash, attack you, game's over.
Yep.
But he do so by suppressing the Goblin, as you mentioned, love it.
He's saying, I got a removal spell in my hand, come make an attack.
Yep.
So Thunderbreak Regent, a huge draw for DeMars.
Murderous cut the draw here for Thompson.
So Thompson can still flashback Sultai Charm and try to find something. I think that's where he's gotten to. Does he have the mana in play to flashback Sultai Charm and cast a Languish if he draws it? I believe the answer is no.
I believe the answer is no, too.
But he could bathe for it.
He could bring to life.
Bring to life for it.
Yeah, but he doesn't have. So I mean,
he's a land.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a path out of this. Because Sultai Charm is going to cost him 3 mana.
He has 4 left over. So then, if he has Bathe in Light plus a land, he can do everything. I mean, it's tight. If he has Bring to Light and a land, he can get out of this.
Even with Zergo in the equation in hand?
He can leave the Rhino back on D.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yep, there's 3 lands. There it is. Brian DeMars is going to win this match here over Gerry Thompson, 2-1. Atarka Red is going to take care of 5-color Bring to Light. A heck of a run through this tournament for Gerry Thompson, only losing 1 match all the way through the Swiss, but was not able to get both sideboard games again because he's giving up so much percentage in game 1.
And, DeMars needed every ounce of a good draw on the play game 3 to get that done. And that was a game that didn't involve Radiant Flames or any other sweepers from Thompson. Just removal spells and Siege Rhino gives Gerry a stop. But DeMars played very well, had a very solid draw at game 3, and had just enough to get that game and match.
Congratulations to Brian DeMars on winning this match here over Gerry Thompson and moving on to the semifinals.